I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed of those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris,
he did get pushback from them. They did try to fact check him in real time, but there were numerous questions that she would not answer, and she did tell several lies and got no fact checking.
Her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris.
We know the moderators pushed back on former President Trump 5 times and on Vice President Kamala Harris 0 times.
That proves this is state-run media. She knew she could get away with saying lie after lie after lie after lie. I've never seen anything like it.
We've had both of the candidates in office before, and we've gotten to see what they would do. And when facts come to facts, my life was better when Trump was in office.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Well, propaganda has reached a whole new level in this country. When you see the mainstream media, as some call it the legacy media, some call it the mainstream media, I think it is rightly called the state-run media, simply takes on a debate and they side with one candidate. That has unfortunately been the case for quite some time, and we saw it at an escalated level this last week. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about propaganda. I've got a lot of clips to show you, got a lot of content to get through, and we're going to talk about how Christians should be thinking about things during a time like this. Welcome to Truth Transforms. My name's Adam Markley. Welcome to this live edition. Be sure to leave your thoughts down there below, and we will get moving. Whether I get to any comments during the live stream or not is another story, because I've got an awful lot of stuff to get through, but I will try to take a look maybe later on in the program. This would be one I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Did you watch the debate? What were your thoughts? I think it was quite something. It was certainly quite something. My takeaways were very different than what a lot of the political commentators' takeaways are, and so it's interesting to see what they have to say. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about propaganda, okay? Because a lot of times people talk about propaganda and they don't even define what it is. Well, so we might as well get a standard definition for it from the Concise English, Oxford English Dictionary. Propaganda: information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote a political cause or point of view. The dissemination of such information. Now, propaganda, of course, being from a Latin root, is certainly could be used to talk about propagating anything. And propagating anything on its own is not necessarily bad, but we know that how it's used now is that propaganda has been used for many things to mislead and to create certain points of views. And certainly that has been the case in politics. And when it is a case in politics, it deals specifically with worldviews. It goes against the Christian worldview. And so there are things that are propagated, like Christians are evil. Christians are terrible people. Christians don't want women to have the option to kill their babies. Christians don't want LGBT folks to be identified as a gender that they were not born with, so they don't want them to live in a delusion. Christians are against all of these things, and so therefore Christians are the problem. That's what happens with propaganda, of course, and we know a particular party that certainly is all for going against Christians, everything that Christians stand for, and all Christian values, and that very plainly is the Democrat Party. No Christian can have any justification for voting for the the Democrat Party. Let's go ahead and get started. We will get started with a viral clip here. This is by Kelley. She was pretty worked up after the debate. In fact, she was worked up enough. She had some profanity. I did edit that out for you. Let's go ahead and watch this.
I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed of those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris, that is responsible for Kamala Harris and her husband meeting. And they did Dana Walden's bidding tonight. It was 3 against 1 on that debate stage this evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelley, a special program tonight for you reacting to the debate. It was 3 against 1. It's very easy to look like you know what you're doing when both moderators are entirely on your side. Trump did the best he could under the circumstances, but it really was like 3 fighters in the ring pummeling one opponent. And Trump tried to take them all on. He did fine. He did as best as he could. He was thrown a few times to the point where he was unnecessarily defensive and he was getting angry. And so was I. Were you? This was a mistake to trust ABC News with this debate. The Republicans must learn from this mistake. The same way the Democrats never agree to do anything with moderators they don't entirely trust. This should be the last time the Republicans ever do this. Because those 2 moderators tried to sink Donald Trump tonight. The numerous fact checks on what he said and none on what she said. None. I don't remember a single fact check of anything she said, and she lied repeatedly. She just got away with it. In the moderator's eyes, that was Donald Trump's job to fact check her. That's correct, except you didn't employ that same tactic when it came to Trump, and you accused him of lying even when it was your opinion that he lied. When Trump tried to say that his comment that he lost 2020 by a whisker was him being sarcastic, David Muir actually injected saying, I didn't hear sarcasm. Who gives what you heard? Who died and left you, political analyst in chief? You're supposed to be the objective news anchor of World News Tonight. That's a comment you make to your significant other, David, not on the debate. It didn't sound like that to me. Shut up. That is inappropriate. It's not for you to make that call. Leave it up to Kamala Harris. Leave it up to people like me who will play the soundbite and let the audience decide. But you were out of line, and they did it to him over and over and over again. And the worst piece of all of this is the obvious tactic by ABC News, which was as follows. Mr. Trump, you said something incredibly controversial and terrible. Let me remind you of what it was. Do you have any regrets or thoughts on how terrible you were? Trump answers. Vice President Harris, how bad is Trump? And then she'd answer. It happened over and over again. That was the format. Mr. Trump, you're a piece of... Kamala Harris, isn't he? Thank you. It was incredible. And then anything Trump said, fact check, fact check, fact check. And their fact checks were full. I'm swearing even more than normal right now because I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm angry at them, at ABC, at my industry that I want nothing to do with. And I've never been happier to be outside and be able to say how I truly feel. And yes, even with some colorful words, because that's what the situation calls for. They're trying to steal this election. They're openly working to sink him. I think it was so bad, their bias against him and toward her, that it's going to backfire. I actually think the American public is going to see through this, and there's probably going to be some empathy for Trump. No fair-minded person could think anything other than that they were in the tank for him, and it was 3 against 1 on that stage tonight.
Well, what do you think? Do you think people will see through it? Do you think people will have their eyes open to see just how corrupt our government is and just how much the government aligns with both legacy media and social media platforms like what you're seeing right now, where they censor every word and they take videos like this particular video and they shadow ban this video and make sure this doesn't reach as many people. So make sure to hit that like button. That will help at least get past it at the start. But that's definitely is happening because the government directs these institutions what to do. That has been made very clear with Meta and with Mark Zuckerberg, and people have talked a lot about Facebook, but that is happening big time with, you know, the name of what we're watching this on. That happens a lot with those platforms, and specifically this one, big time. And hopefully people have their eyes open to everything that is going on, and we can see if that's the case. Now, I've got some more to show you here. If you watch the debate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll be honest, though, when I watched the debate, my main thought was I would like to figure out how to leave the country. I would like to figure out how to leave the country was a thought that I was having. My main thought was not like, wow, this is outrageous, because aren't we used to that? Aren't we used to CNN and all of these propaganda machines just pushing back against the Republican candidate? When has that not been happening? I just think they're making it a lot more obvious. And when people say, oh, well, they fairly handled the previous debate, why do you think that is? Because they knew that if they could get Biden out there and they just asked their questions and they were like, President Trump, head down. President Biden, head down. Saying nothing. They knew that Biden would fall apart and be out and they could do their palace coup. I mean, I think this stuff is pretty obvious to me. Is it obvious to you? Let's go to the Bible. We need to get to the Bible. So we know that we are seekers of the truth. We are people of the truth. We are people of the book. And we must have equal weights and measures, equal scales. I wrote down something. If I was going to have kind of a main point I wanted to drive in on, I don't know that this is really going to all get to that, but I still wanted to create like a sentence that's kind of a main thing to think about. Because we are people of the truth, we must seek the truth, expose lies and deception, and vote with wisdom, love for our neighbor, and in accordance with our conscience. I think that's something to keep in mind as you go to vote, and whatever it is that you're deciding to do. Certainly you're not going to vote for a Democrat as a Christian. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Because we are people of the truth, we must seek the truth, expose lies and deception, and vote with wisdom, love for our neighbor, and in accordance with our conscience. That is absolutely what we need to do. Let's go to some scripture here. Deuteronomy 25:13-16, we see, you shall not have in your bag two kinds of weights, a large and a small. You shall not have in your house two kinds of measures, a large and a small. No, we're supposed to have equal weights and measures. There is a just system. There should not be a fact checking of one candidate and not the other candidate. Moderators should not be fact checking. I mean, yeah, politicians spew a lot of lies these days, and there would be a lot of lies all over the place, but like, they're facilitators. That's simply their purpose. It's the other candidate's the other candidate is basically going to use their time to respond to the lies that the other candidate says. But, you know, unfortunately, a lot of time gets spent correcting things, and that is something that we saw happen a lot that night. A full and fair weight, this is Deuteronomy, continuing on, verse 15. A full and fair weight you shall have, and a full and fair measure you shall have, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. For all who do such things, all who act dishonestly, are an abomination to the Lord your God. In Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. The Lord delights in justice, and we should delight in justice and desire to see justice. A just balance and scales are the Lord's, at all the weights in the bag are his work. That is exactly right. One more here on righteousness and justice and equal weights and measures. Ecclesiastes 3:17, I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every matter and for every work. Yes, God will judge in the end, and there will be ultimate and true justice in the afterlife. And there is also justice that can occur in this life as well. In fact, we do know, just in terms of how a nation is led, that of course, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people moan. And oh, are we seeing a lot of moaning because of the wicked ruling? And that is exactly what we are absolutely seeing. We're going to move on to another clip here, and this is actually Megyn Kelley again, because her clip went crazy viral, and she had made the rounds, and so we're going to get to this here in a moment. Now, before we do that, if you are new here, then what I would like to tell you is I've got a gift for you. I've got a gift for you, but I hit the wrong button. Where do I go for that? I just added this. There we go. There. I've got a gift for you. There we go. I've got a gift for you, and the way that you can get it, it's called Lessons in Philippians. And what is this doing? How did it even do that again? So, okay. It's a little booklet, a little ebook, and you can go there, and you just go to preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. That's preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. And you can, okay, I'm going to have to fix that. So if you go there, you can get that ebook downloaded, and anyway, hopefully I can do some other free resources as well. Okay, let's get back to the content now. The next clip here, the next clip is going to be Megyn Kelley talking about the debate a bit more on Sky News. Here, of course, she continues to be outraged. Watch.
No better person in front of a camera and on air than the wonderful Megyn Kelley, and she was amazing yesterday in her immediate hot take on the debate. Well, we're here a day later, and it's time to talk to her from the United States. Megyn, congrats on the way you handled it. We played it all on the show last night, your immediate reaction, and you could see your rage, because you're not like me, like someone who's just watching. You've done this. You've hosted these things before, and you could see that you were seething with rage because these people weren't just not playing fair, they were deliberately trying to kill off one of those two candidates.
Absolutely. It was a 3-on-1 pile-on. It was an ambush, and they went in there prepared to do it. Looking back on it now, going back and, we pulled the transcript, and you read, all the questions and how it worked. And every single time Trump tried to bridge away or didn't answer the question and tried to answer either his own sort of thoughts, offer his own thoughts on something, or even meander on defending himself against one of her attacks, they would bring him back to their difficult question. Like, the question was this. Every time she did that, she got a pass. They never once did that to her. Every time he said something they didn't think was true, they fact-checked him. 9 times out of 10, their fact-check was made up, it was a lie, or it was an opinion, which had no place at a presidential debate. How many fact checks did they do of her? None. Her lies were all over the place. She started the debate by saying, you're going to hear a lot of lies tonight. And indeed, that was true, but they were from her.
Oh, yeah, they were from her. That's what we saw, is we saw a lot of lying come from Kamala Harris, and just one after another after another. And yeah, Vanessa, we do watch the same type of content, it does seem. And as we navigate these waters, God is sovereign. We need to remember that at all times, of course, even in these turbulent times. Rhonda says, this is why I don't watch these debates. And, that's a good point, because we do know that there are unjust scales and unjust weights. Well, we're going to continue on. There's actually a part 2 of their discussion there. Another little clip here. And this is talking about the fact that Kamala Harris simply laughs at the problems. Yes, she simply laughs at the problems in this country.
She laughed twice in response to his answers, and one was on the economy and one was on immigration.
Yep.
He was raising the thing about what's happening in Springfield, Ohio, with whether people's pets are getting eaten or attacked or killed by these Haitian migrants who are all over this town. And she laughed openly at him. It's no laughing matter. First of all, there are first-person testimonials all over television and the internet of people in Springfield saying this is happening. There's a city manager who says they couldn't prove it. That does not mean it didn't happen, and that's yet another reason why David Muir's attempt to fact-check this issue was so inappropriate. It's a he said, they said at this point. That's not the kind of thing a debate moderator should weigh in on. You are not there to be a judge. You're a questioner. That's it. Who died and left him king of Springfield?
Yeah. So his source is simply, well, the city manager told me this. When there's all kinds of testimonies, all kinds of reports, and we're going to get back to that in a moment. But let's talk about this propaganda again. Is this actually happening? Are migrants taking over towns? You bet they are. But let's just pretend like it's not. And then, if we have to admit that it actually is happening, oh, you know what? I guess, there's like 20,000 migrants taking over this real small town in Ohio. I guess it really is happening. You know whose fault it is? It's this guy. I saw this thumbnail here. MSNBC on violent migrants taking over towns, and this is what they say. Dark chapter. How Trump's hateful lies, not illegal immigrants, are hurting Springfield. That's what we call propaganda. And then you have, things like Goldman Sachs saying, well, the economy would be better under a Marxist. Economies are always better under Marxists. I don't know who this is, but I saw it in my feed. It says Goldman Sachs has delivered a surprising assessment on which presidential candidate would most boost the U.S. economy if they win in November. According to the investment bank's latest analysis, Kamala Harris would be more beneficial to the U.S. economy than Donald Trump. Who do you think would boost the U.S. economy more in 2025? Who do you think? Yeah, that's kind of a no-brain answer. That's why three out of 3.3 thousand people, 89% said Donald Trump, because they know at the very minimum he won't be intentionally trying to make it worse. He won't be intentionally trying to make it worse. Well, let's move on to this next clip. Yes, I've been gathering a lot of clips. So Fox News also talked about the fact check and the fact that there was live fact checking of one candidate, but not of the other.
A big focus, the first debate, was the fact-checking both live and after the fact that we had our eye on. We know the moderators pushed back on former President Trump 5 times and on Vice President Kamala Harris 0 times. We fact-checked her, but they didn't. Time magazine was also forced to take back a so-called fact check of its own. That media outlet claimed Trump's point that Kamala Harris supported transgender surgeries for illegal immigrants in prison was false. The vice president did, in fact, check yes in support on a survey she filled out during her 2019 presidential run, saying that she would do that. Now, remember, these are people who've been detained, deemed for many reasons, maybe even some of them dangerous, can't walk about the country. You're here illegally. Should we give them gender surgeries, gender transforming surgeries, elective surgery on our dime was the question. She said yes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that she believed that she's trying to scrub now. Of course, taxpayer-funded trans surgery for illegal immigrants in prison. Oh, don't worry, though. She's not going to take your guns. Not at all. Except she posted this, and I saw it right before going live. Congress must renew the assault weapons ban. But she said in the debate, what are you talking about? I'm a gun owner. Not going to take your guns. So there's some obvious lies, obvious delusion there. And it's sad just how many people do buy into it. Well, what about what you know what? I'm switching it up because I found this video and I've got things a little bit out of order here. We're gonna watch this. This is about an ad that was put out. This is rather interesting. I understand many of you definitely do not like Trump, but I do find this interesting. And let's. It's not there. Let's take a watch.
To Harris and CNN. Throughout that interview, Harris had one focus group tested line she wanted to make sure everyone heard loud and clear.
The most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. Let's be clear, my values have not changed. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed.
Okay, the values have not changed, but what are those values? Well, this new ad from the Trump campaign sheds a little light on them.
My values have not changed.
Reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
The Boston Marathon bomber, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, I'm in favor of banning fracking. I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal. I support a mandatory buyback program. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea.
Yeah, you are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chipping now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas? Yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
And some great voiceover work there by Rita Penny here. Well done. But again, if CNN had any integrity, which of course we don't, they would have gone much harder on this and tried to pin down on Harris on what she really believes and exposed her as a radical California leftist who's into every bonkers progressive ideas from open borders to banning plastic straws. But no, they're just suffering, I guess, from a case of good old TDS, or Trump derangement syndrome. If only there was a cure for it. Hang on a second. Nicole Shanahan, who was RFK Jr.'s running mate until he dropped out and endorsed Trump, has just released an ad for a new treatment for TDS.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing Independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, Independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
And I instantly believed it. With Independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, Independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of Independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
Okay, so looks like I was muted there. So I'm not sure how long I was muted, but I probably was muted the whole time after coming out of that clip. But yeah, we need some critical thinking, huh? I was clearly saying some really good things while I was muted. You just couldn't hear it. But yeah, we need critical thinking, because if there's critical thinking, then people will actually recognize propaganda. They will actually recognize when they're being lied to. They will actually recognize when things don't add up. They will actually recognize when there are unjust standards, when there are double standards and arbitrary standards and all kinds of that thing. That's absolutely what we do need more of. We do need more of that. So we are going to move on, and we are going to talk about actually the history of media bias. Yeah, that should be the next one. The fact that a former White House chief of staff was talking about this history of media bias. We all know that there's media bias, of course, and it's been going on for decades. But, really, we're talking about election interference at this point.
Keep in mind the history in this country. Back in 2016, Donna Brazile, who was a high-ranking member of the Democrat National Committee, leaked some of the questions at a CNN debate to then-candidate Hillary Clinton. So there is a history here. Go back and watch the video of the Biden-Trump debate when the CNN moderator Dana Bash was actually physically motioning to Joe Biden to look someplace else because someone else was asking him a question. So the bias in the media is real. We don't know how real it is in this particular circumstance. There have actually been some high-ranking Democrats who have called for an investigation into this in order to try and reestablish the credibility of the media, because the questions floating around right now are serious. And the video you played is incontrovertible. The ABC News had pre-planned, prepared answers to push back on Donald Trump, and did not do the same thing on Kamala Harris.
Let's talk about the former Clinton advisor that he's referring to that's calling for an investigation. Let's talk about that. He has some really interesting things to say that go right along with what this man is saying. Watch.
And it seemed like every time that they went to Kamala Harris, they were almost saying, hey, look, here are all the things that he said that was wrong. Do you want to respond to that? It was like they were kind of aiding her. But also, we've had now, in the last few hours, former Clinton advisor Mark Penn, he has called for an investigation into whether the debate was actually rigged. And there is apparently a whistleblower who is set to claim that, as you suggested in 2016 happened with Donna Brazile and Hillary Clinton, that actually the Harris camp was leaked sample questions that were very, very similar to what was actually asked on the night. What are we to make of all of this?
Well, that's what this is going to take, right? A whistleblower, somebody inside ABC News who has a little bit of integrity, who's willing to come forward and tell the truth. Look, it might not have happened. We just like to know, right? Keep in mind, Mark Penn, the gentleman who you just put on the screen there, that's about as high up in the Democrat Party as you get. That was Bill Clinton's pollster. So this is a big name in the Democrat policies, in politics. So to have that type of pushback against ABC News, again, our ABC is different than your ABC, but to have that kind of pushback is real, and I think it will impact whether or not we have additional debates.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big deal there. We've got a lot of people saying the same thing, and he is not alone. Other people are saying this, including the former head of presidential debates, talking about on Greta, forget her last name, and clip 11, there it is, couldn't find it. So he's talking about how moderators should conduct themselves. Here's what I had to say.
You know, we always explain to our moderators, and we've done 33 of those, Greta, starting back in 1988, that their job is to be facilitators. They're not to get involved themselves. It's different than if you had someone on your show and you asked them a question and they answered in a different way than they'd said a month before. You would correct them. But moderators are not supposed to do that. A debate is between the candidates, not a debate between the candidate and the moderators. And these moderators, as far as I was concerned, it was the worst performance that I've seen. And as I said, I've done 33 of these things over the years. I don't know what their thoughts were, but they clearly were oversized, I think, on the way they treated the former president and the way they treated the present vice president. I think they bent backwards to help her.
Yes. How about that? How about candidates that are debating should be debating themselves and not debating the moderators? You know what? We should probably go to some debate clips and just take a look at that debating of the moderators. Let's take a look at this here, which is going to be... Let's take a look at this. So we've got the... this is basically dealing with the economy, dealing with illegal immigration, dealing with violence. I don't know if there's... Well, yeah, there's going to be some pushback on this. But we are dealing with, in this clip, definitely things like the rule of law, Romans 13. Who's going to uphold the law? Who's going to punish the evildoers and reward those who do good, regardless of other policies? Who's going to at least uphold the rule of law in those areas? I think those are good questions for Christians to ask. There's going to be some discussion about destroying the economy. Who's destroying the economy? Well, that's going to be talked about. Promoting lawlessness. Yes, we know, of course, Democrats are promoting lawlessness and then allowing at least violence. Let's start that. Let's watch this clip.
We've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation, and it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people on television
from the
saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So you see, they're debating. They're debating back and forth. Meanwhile, they want to completely ignore everything that's going on in our country. The eating of the dog sounds extreme to some people. Well, we'll talk about that. But something else we need to talk about. Where is it? The Venezuela. He made a Venezuela comment. I saw this headline. I opened up the article. I saw Venezuelan gang infiltration. Police called 693 times. Oh, well, that's actually why that makes sense. That makes sense why I thought what I thought. Because I opened it up and I was like, oh, wow, they're probably talking about what's going on in Venezuela because of, this discussion. And obviously I know about issues here. But this is just like, wow, that's, it's terrible. And we don't want to become that. Well, this is not Venezuela. This is Texas. Venezuelan gang infiltration called police 693 times. Let's sit down here. With the flag crossing the U.S. or Mexico with hundreds of Texas. Anyway, I didn't get to read that article, but I did go down and I saw a link from that article. It was to here. Aurora mayor blames bad Biden border policies for Venezuelan gang problem. Yes, I agree. And I think we should be calling it the Harris-Biden regime is kind of the best way to refer to it as of now. There was also then a link to something that, we'll go find this. So here is the Aurora Police Department. And this is ADP officers have been proactively patrolling areas where there is suspected TD activity. Today, Interim Chief Heather Morris and several officers connected with residents at the Edge, at Lowry Apartments, at Dallas Street and 12th Avenue to offer reassurances, provide updates on criminal activity in the area, and to learn about living conditions at the complex. Below an update. So let's take a look at this update. I've got to get that open for you. I've got to get that open for us. Let me see if I can, I can't click on the link right now. So let me get that pulled up for us and we will take a look at that. So it will take me just a moment here, unfortunately. And I will get that here in a moment. So I got the video coming and here we go. It's almost done. So 1 second. Okay.
Here at 12th and Dallas, got quite a few of our officers out here that are out here tonight.
That's really
again.
quiet.
I've been out here for several weeks, making contacts with our residents, reassuring them about the criminal activity that's happening here and how we're going to address it. We're out here, we want to reassure the people that live in this community that we are actively investigating criminal activity that's happening and listening to them to so that we can learn anything that we're missing. What are we missing, and actually find out what exactly is going on. We're out here because we care. I mean, nobody should be wearing this uniform if they don't care. And we want the residents and the people that live here to know that we care. We've been talking to the residents here and learning from them to find out what exactly is going on. And there's definitely a different picture. I'm not saying that there's not gang members that don't live in this community, but what we're learning out here is that gang members have not taken over this complex. We've really made an effort to the last few days to just really ask the specific questions or the direct questions in terms of the gang activity and who's actually making sure that people aren't paying rent to gang leaders or gang members, that's not happening. And we've discovered here today and yesterday talking to so many residents that that's not the case. We've been talking about, and they've been sincere with us. We really believe that they are sincere with us. And we're standing out here, and I can tell you that gang members have not taken over this apartment complex.
So it's definitely getting bad, and let's talk about the pets, the animals, the reports in Springfield, and we're gonna do that here in just a moment. I gotta get a couple of things together. We're gonna be back after a short little break. I'm gonna give us a short little break here. It's gonna say thanks for watching, but it's not actually over. I'm gonna be back. We'll be back. We'll talk about Springfield here in a moment. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to let you know real quick, if you ever feel led to support, these are some ways that can be done. You can, of course, do that by providing a one-time love offering. There's a link below that shows you how you can do that. Also, you can visit the merchandise shop and find something that you enjoy, and that would help out as well. And you would also have some merch that you'll definitely like. There's hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all kinds of merch in there. And you can take a look at the Devotional Bible Study Guide. There's a link to a video. You can find out more about that. Also, if you do decide to visit the merchandise shop, what you're going to find is all kinds of different designs, There you see a few examples. Sermon fueled. Don't get mad at me. I just preach the Bible. My dad's my favorite pastor. My husband's my favorite preacher. And I'm going to tell you, by far the most popular is my husband is my favorite preacher. And don't get mad at me. I just preach the Bible. This preach the word's pretty popular as well. Then here's again, my husband's my favorite preacher in pink. And you can take a look at the designs. There's a lot more to look at. So be sure to visit the store and check out those other links below. God bless you, and thanks for watching. So, have migrants been a problem in Springfield, Ohio? Many are saying that's not a problem at all. And certainly there's no problem with them eating animals. That's, no. Nobody is seeming to have a problem with this at all. They are actually perfectly fine. They are welcomed. There's no problem with Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. Wait. Before we go there, there's a police report. Let's listen to that.
Federalist has obtained exclusive audio of a police phone call which reveals a local resident reporting a group of Haitian migrants carrying 4 geese in Springfield, Ohio 2 weeks ago.
I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. There was about 4 of them. There was 2 men, 2 women. I'm time crunching here. And I saw that. I'm like, yeah, this has got to be reported.
So how many geese did they have?
They each had 1.
They're eating geese. So, but it's not happening, of course, because the city manager said it's not happening. Therefore, it's not happening. So we're going to base it off of eyewitness testimony doesn't mean anything. And you're going to see there's a lot of testimony with the issue of migrants, Haitian migrants, taking over towns and not just Springfield or Aurora. It's becoming pretty widespread. So that is a major issue. In fact, the Daily Wire reported on it, and they had this to say. They had to say what you need to know about the Ohio town overrun by Haitian migrants. This was on September 9th. And we'll just try and read through this I'm just going to scan through this, but we've got some videos from this. So residents of Springfield, Ohio are voicing their outrage after the sudden influx of Haitian immigrants has sparked numerous social issues, overwhelmed services, and worsened the housing crisis. Up to 20,000 Haitian immigrants have moved to Springfield in the last few years, according to the city's mayor. The last available census data shows the city with a population of 58,000 people, meaning the sudden influx was about a third of the town's population. Residents definitely express their concerns. Let's watch this guy expressing his concerns.
I think it's like kind of odd that
go full screen.
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun. Because I see what's going on in these streets, and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits, and I'm getting out here every day, and I'm broadcasting this, and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like, I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it? I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get like a task force for the Highway State Patrol, and they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for going left to center and a couple miles over. Y'all can take them same people the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset, and y'all can park them right over there, and y'all can teach people how to drive, since the Highway State Patrol knows so much about traffic laws and know what to do in traffic. They need to, y'all pay them, they can go over there and teach these Haitians how to drive, because it's getting I'm getting thousands of views on these. And it's going to get bigger, and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all need to put on a T-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets, and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Like, y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. We got to do something, bro. It's kids out here getting hurt. Like, only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them. And who is getting paid? Like, how much money is y'all really getting paid, like, to bring them over here? Like, I know it's deeper than them. I know that's where they come from, and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really, like, step up. Like, it's lame, bro. Like, for real.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you see what's going on there. It is a massive, complete takeover. And what's interesting is they're taking over small towns, very small towns. And it seems like a very targeted measure to basically test the waters as to what the response is. And it seems that the response is, of course, backlash at first, but there's some interesting actually acceptance that seems to have set in by some people. And I think that that's kind of what they're going for. This is a test case. How are people going to respond? And so I think as Christians, when you go thinking about voting, we can't just completely throw out the idea that we can't vote for an individual because of certain character traits. I think that voting is not an endorsement of an individual. It is not an endorsement. It is simply voting against wickedness and voting for I would say wickedness and righteousness, but we know that the Republican Party is getting moved further and further left. They've taken away the pro-life as a platform out of the Republican platform. They took it away this summer. They also took away the sanctity of marriage. So those things are gone, and we know that. But what we do have left is we do have someone that will uphold the rule of law, someone that will punish the evildoers at least. I don't know if there'll be a reward of the good, because those would be Christians, but there seems to be a protection, a recognition of religious liberty. And let's be real, even the cult, fake, NAR, hyper-charismatic, New Apostolic Reformation, those Christians that are surrounding him, well, it's Christians nonetheless, Christians, cult Christians, different people with a kind of moral standards surrounding Donald Trump. Those are the people surrounding him and the party. And when you vote for a party, when you vote for a platform, you're voting more than for an individual. It's not about an individual's character. It's about much more than it's. I'm not saying that's not important, but there are things that we don't have a candidate running that has a good moral character. We just don't. And Democrats is not an option, because Democrats are destroying this country. I mean, I hope that you can see that. I hope that you can see that there is an intentional destruction of this country. Trump called Kamala Harris a Marxist during the debate. I was happy to hear him say it. I didn't know that he would be willing to say such a thing in public discourse, but she 100% is a Marxist and is bringing Marxist ideals. And the difference between Marxism and communism is very simply that communism is just a stateless, classless, completely a classless society, and Marxism is kind of the process to get there. Well, at least a Marxist revolution is the process to get there. I could dig into Marxism a little bit more in another episode if you're interested. I was reading something about it, and I wrote down this quote. and I found it interesting. So it's in my paper somewhere. I wrote down a quote, and you want to know what that quote is, so I better find it. I hope I find it. Well, it was a quote that was basically talking about the fact that, okay, I don't have it. So it's basically that Marxism is the process of getting to communism. Marxism is the process of getting to that classless state. That's essentially what it was. And so that is what we're, the situation that we're in right now. That is absolutely the situation that we're in right now. Well, we are going to move forward, and we are going to move forward nonetheless. Here's the quote. Marxists view this as a transient phase in human history and believe it will inevitably lead to communism. I wish I had the sentence before to give you more context, but it's talking about the difference between Marxism and communism. And, it seems generally, I wrote, basically, I understand what Marxism is, but I've always been not 100% clear on exactly the differences with like Marxism and communism and all of that. I preached on Marxism at the church I was pastoring back in 2019 on James chapter 2. I preached on the Marxist takeover that we were seeing in the SBC. I wasn't in the SBC. I was pastoring a conservative Baptist church, which is not conservative at all. It's kind of like what Marxists do. They put titles on things that are not true. So, Marxism is basically the philosophy that leads to communism, essentially. Communism's kind of like the end goal, but, and I've got Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. I was preaching through the book of James, and I was hoping to read some different books before I made it to James chapter 2. One of them was The Woke Church, and I used to have it back there. The Woke Church is going to hold it up for you. I don't know why. Not like I want you to go get it. One of them was The Woke Church, and the other was the Communist Manifesto. And because, it's just laid out very, very clearly about taking away personal property and, Marx and Engels, and there's discussions in there. If you just go to the FAQ in the back of the Communist Manifesto, it's rather interesting. It's just like, well, does it have to be done by force? And it's like, well, not necessarily. Most people would probably just hand it over, at some point with enough pressure. But then at some point it'll have to be done by force, most likely. And there's that kind of discussion just even in the very back of it, which is rather interesting and demonstrates, and disturbing too, and demonstrates exactly what these people believe. And this is the kind of stuff that Kamala Harris believes. And this is the kind of stuff that she promotes. In fact, even CNN was actually surprised by something that she believed. I'm all over the place trying to find stuff, but they were surprised. I'm trying to find a screenshot for you, and about her 2019 policy positions. And this is not where it's at, but I'm gonna have to find that clip for you. Glenn Beck is something we're gonna go to now while I find that screenshot, because there's a discussion that is had that deals with these very things. It deals with everything going on here, and then we'll actually probably come back to this article, maybe play another clip from this article, even if this is 5 hours long. And so thanks for sticking with me, anyone that's here. And this is quite the discussion on Glenn Beck. They're talking about the situation in Springfield. They're talking about, they have a reporter there on the ground. He's got some things to say, and I think you're going to be surprised. Here it is.
Julio now is in Springfield, Ohio, talking about the Haitian influx to see what's really going on. He's our national correspondent, Julio Rosas. Welcome.
Yeah, Glenn, thanks for having me.
You bet. You got there yesterday?
I got in late Monday night, yes.
Okay. So what have you found on the ducks and the geese and the everything else?
Well, I can tell you that it is an issue that has been raised to the city for months. Months before this got brought to the national attention, last week into this week. I can't speak to how widespread it is, but it's been enough of a problem that people have been saying, "Hey, we've been seeing this. I've heard about this. Can the city look into it?" And from my understanding is, and not just with the duck issue, the pet issue, but overall any issue that residents have been raising over the 20,000 Haitians being put into their city. A lot of the residents feel that the city commission is just not listening to their problems, or they're unwilling to do anything about it because there is a lot of money being involved in the decisions, because these Haitians, they have jobs. I mean, and so that's why they're able to be here legally, and they have protective status.
Wait. They have jobs?
Yes.
How did they do job placement for 15 or 20,000 Haitians?
It's through a temp agency called First Diversity. It's based here in Springfield, and that's one of the tension points within the American citizens here, is that everything seems to be revolved around accommodating the Haitians first and the American citizens second. And that's why they're so upset at the city commission, because the city commission appears that they want to make Springfield seem as accommodating as possible to the Haitian population, which includes not towing cars of unlicensed drivers. Surrounding communities are having to do that because, admittedly, they're not very great drivers, and it's caused, some people have been killed. There have been accidents on the road, but Springfield in the past has just not been willing to tow their cars whenever there's been an accident or whether they've been caught driving recklessly. And so that's one of the reasons why people no longer drive into Springfield to shop. I was in Tremont City, which is just 5 minutes to the north. They no longer go to the Kroger or the Walmart in Springfield. They go to the cities up north to do the shopping because they say even being on the road is too dangerous. So while most people were getting ready for the debate last night, I was at the city commission meeting that they have. And a few people spoke during the public comments portion, where one woman, she's 58, she's elderly, she lives on the south side of town, and the south side of town is where most of the Haitians have been put and are living at now. And she says she doesn't even leave her house anymore without her gun and her 120-pound pit bull, because she has been followed, she has been groped by Haitians, she's been accosted verbally, and she said, "I'm very worried about the women of this town because they're very aggressive towards women." And that was just one person, but there's a lot of, yes, the pet issue is one thing, but even on the housing alone, what's been happening is that landlords have, you say you have a family of four, the landlords don't renew their lease with them. And then they replace them with up to 15 Haitians. They're not even renting the house. They're renting beds. They're charging them, I've been told, $200 a week for just the bed. And it was explained to me that the bed never gets cold because there's just a constant rotation of people that use it for those 8 hours. Then they go to work and then they come back and it just starts all over again. So you put, two sets of bunk beds in a room, that's 6 people, right?
That's the way it works in China.
Yeah. And so the landlords are getting a lot more money from this, and the city isn't enforcing the fire codes. So because that's a fire hazard when you have that many people crammed into one, a 2-bedroom, a 1-bedroom place, but you have 15 people inside, that's a fire hazard. But the city has refused to enforce the codes, again, to try to accommodate the Haitians as much as possible. And American citizens who haven't been able to afford to leave, they've ended up homeless. There's encampments that have sprung up around Springfield And it's not because of just homeless people as like Los Angeles that are drugged out. It's they can't afford anything else, and that's their only option.
So there's some really, really terrible things going on in this country, and that's going on right now in Springfield, Ohio. Very clearly orchestrated, and yes, there's money involved. Landlords are making lots of money on this, $200 per person, per bed, I believe he said, and housing like 5, 6, at least 5, I think, in like a 2-bedroom apartment. So, you know, landlords are making money from this, but we know that ultimately it's not about money, and ultimately it's not about a Marxist takeover. Ultimately, when you get down to it, it is about wickedness. It is about evil versus good. I mean, that is what this is. This is lawlessness. Sin is lawlessness. And when the wicked rule, the people truly do groan. And when the wicked rule, they have their reign of terror, and they do everything to increase wickedness. And that is what we're seeing. And we need to, as Christians, look at voting and look at our rights seriously. We do have rights, and we should be using that privilege of voting in the situation that we have and do everything possible. What we have is we have a system where, in theory, our vote makes a difference. And in theory, then, I think that we should go and we should cast that ballot for our preference. Is it Kamala Harris, comrade Kamala Harris and the Marxism, or is it Donald Trump and the capitalists, the free market society? Which is it going to be? If you have a preference, those are really the two options. Yes, of course, Christian conscience, if you cannot vote for a particular candidate, but I do not believe that voting for someone is endorsing them when it's simply choosing a preference. If you look up the definitions, and I did just for the sake of people get upset about a lot of things. My comment section by people that disagree, they are filled with CNN talking points. They are filled with CNN talking points. That's exactly what it looks like. It's just the White House, DC, CNN, China talking points, just right down through the comment section. But then they're also filled with Trump worshipers on the other side, and they're filled with many of you that leave very encouraging comments, and I appreciate that. And I've seen those encouraging comments when I had a chance on this stream, and I appreciate those as well. And I always read those after the fact, by the way. But they're filled with these two sides, the Trump worshipers and those that are spitting CNN talking points because they just buy into a bunch of propaganda. Well, so do the cult followers. So do the ones that worship Donald Trump and think that he is deity. I mean, I had someone email me and say, and this was a video that you probably watched recently, where I was railing against Democrats and railing against their immorality and all these things. But at some point in the video, I said, I do not endorse Donald Trump. So I want you to make that clear. And so I got the nastiest email I've ever received that said, you deserve to live under Marxist slavery. And that person claims to be a Christian. So that is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that think that Donald Trump is truly divine and you should bow down and worship the man. Bow down and worship him now. And then we're dealing with people that say, you know what, if you intend to vote for him, then you're clearly with those people. Yeah, you're with those people. It's one of there's no understanding that a Christian can actually hold a position where they say, I do not endorse Donald Trump. He's very unclear on abortion. There's all of these things. However, I intend to vote for him. Yeah, guess what? And in 2016 was a year, I never shared who I voted for ever. 2016, I was like, wow, this is judgment. The two candidates that we have, this is judgment. But I voted very quietly. I didn't tell a soul, except my wife, that I voted for Donald Trump. I didn't tell anybody else. But that's what you do. You make a decision. And then in 2020, when he won again, I voted for him again. And then in 2024, when he wins again, I plan to vote for him again. And we'll just see if he takes office this time after he wins. So that's the situation. Now, here's the thing that was the CNN host was so shocked by these policies here. And there's a clip going around there as well. I don't have the clip, but I've got the screenshot. Harris's 2019 campaign positions: pledge to end immigration detention, taxpayer-funded gender care and transition surgeries for detained migrants. So no more illegals being locked up. No, use all your taxpayer funds to let people live in a fantasy land and pretend to be men, pretend to be women, women pretend to be men. Absolutely, let's just do it. Let's slice them up. All those things. Slash immigration detention by 50%. Close off family private facilities. Decrease funding for ICE. End ICE detainers. Yeah, even the CNN host was shocked by that. Well, so we've gotten through most of these clips here, and I'm trying to think of something else that I wanted to show you, maybe from at least the clips that I've gathered. But I do think that we should be considering the rule of law absolutely when we go to vote. We need to consider justice. You know what? I wrote down a bunch of things where, like, if I was going to write a book, if I had the time to, like, really dig into something, and this is what I wrote down. I wrote need. These are all things that we need. Christians need to have a better understanding of each and every one of these things. A biblical view of government and the church. There needs to be an understanding of a biblical view of government and the church, a view of government, the role of government, and the role of the Christian, and how that goes together. And we've got things, of course, like Romans 13, which makes it very clear that we are to obey the rulers. We are to obey those in authority. However, it also makes it very clear elsewhere in Scripture that we are to obey God rather than men. And that is really a simple thing. People make it hard, but it's not. The fact that if you are commanded to go against Scripture, then you do not go against God's word. You do not disobey God. You must obey God rather than men. But at the same time, when they're asking you to do things, commanding you to do things that are not in disobedience to God's word, well, then we are to be submitted to Scripture. We're also told that the leaders are not a terror to good deeds, and they're not a terror to those who do good. That is the ideal, of course, that they're not supposed to be a terror, but unfortunately, we see leaders right now that terrorize those who do good, they terrorize those who want to do good, and they terrorize those who support good. And you know what's really terrible about the whole Trump thing and the whole everything revolving around this particular man is everything is called by his name. We've got states that have decided to outlaw abortion, and they're calling it Trump abortion bans. Some people just don't want to be associated with his name there. I don't think it's appropriate. It's not his. I understand why they do it, because anytime something's done under a presidential leader's name, that's what they put there. But it's just an odd thing, and it causes people to lose their minds. So if you say anything positive about the policies that he stands for versus the opposition, well, then you're a Trump MAGA cult person. But yet, if you intend to vote for Trump, well, then you're in the MAGA cult. And where they worship him and they excuse him for every single thing. And then if you're on the other side, you've lost your mind as a Christian. So never mind. But just but it's people on the other side that are doing that. Well, let's just say it's people on the Democrat side of course, that they're gonna attack you. But the people when you're biblical, you're attacked by the left because, and Christians that are saying they're Christians and are like, but I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, that's the way to go. No, that's obviously absurd. And then you're attacked by people in the MAGA cult that think that Trump should be seen as divine. It's definitely a thing, and it's out there. and it's very, very bad. It's a lot of places. But just because that is out there does not mean that we should just not deal with issues. Okay, let me just move through the list here of what I wrote. I wrote we need a biblical view of government and the church. We need a biblical view of security or safety. A biblical view of self-defense would go with that. Should Christians own guns? Do Christians have a right to defend themselves? I say absolutely they have a right to defend themselves. A biblical view, I put love of neighbor up here by security. Right, because there's a love of neighbor issue that if we love our neighbor, part of the great commandment to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And it is, I know that verse can be used for a lot of things it shouldn't be used for. There are different applications, but love of neighbor, I really do think that a way that we can express our love for our neighbor is to be, I won't say supporting, but to be voting against immorality, voting against violence, voting against lawlessness. I really do think that if you're, unless your conscience will not allow you to vote for the candidate that I'm speaking of, I understand still. I will never hold a position that says you have to vote or like you're in sin. That's not right either. That bothers me just as much as everything else. No Christian should be telling Christians they have to vote or they're in sin. But I do think it requires thinking. It requires really evaluating the issues and really considering things. So, biblical view of government and the church, biblical view of security, biblical view of self-defense, biblical view of immigration, biblical view of nations. I know that sounds like a Christian nationalist to say that. No, we need to understand what a nation is. A biblical view of ownership, personal property, land, homes, jurisdiction, and a biblical understanding of the free market versus socialism and communism. I had said back in 2019 that, I thought Trump was just kind of people were, I really had some people close to me that were really, really on board with Trump, and it was rather annoying because like everything in the world revolved around him, and it was just kind of like I hold and I have held, and he's not in the president now. When he was the president, it's just like he's just delaying the inevitable was kind of how I thought about it. Socialism is going to come, but I said even then, 2018, 2019, I hope we can make a pit stop at socialism, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make a pit stop at socialism. Probably just going to go straight to communism. That's the reality. So, and that's the reality if we don't vote against immorality, that's just the fact that it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Naturally, pray as well. Pray, vote, pray. Socialism, of course, equals theft. Thou shalt not steal. That's exactly what socialism is. It is stealing from someone else and what they have earned and giving it to someone who has not earned those things. And communism is against religion. It is completely against religion. So we need to remember that. We are dealing with freedom versus tyranny. We are dealing with the upholding of the law versus absolute tyranny. And so what else did I write down? I wrote down just some different things. Freedom of enterprise, free market, parable. Yeah, the workers, you'll remember the one worked all day long and the other worked for an hour and they got the same pay. And so the other worker was complaining about that. And Jesus said, who is it to you? The worker can pay what the worker can pay what he pays. So what we have there is we have, that's not the main point of it, of course, but we do have an understanding that I think it demonstrates that employers should be able to pay the wages that they want to pay. They shouldn't be forced to pay different wages. I think that, it's, of course, there are certain regulations that of course have been helpful for greedy employers, but ultimately we want to have a free market. Absolutely. We don't want to have a communist regime. Other things to think through, just, how biblical of an issue it is, which things like freedom of speech. Is censorship biblical? Well, I mean, there's an element of censorship that, of course, we want to see, like pornography and different things like that. But when you're censoring someone's speech, when you're censoring their ideas, and they can't share their ideas, and you have platforms like this right here, where it is basically a utility. People cannot grow organizations, they cannot grow ministries, they cannot grow businesses, they cannot do that without these platforms. And these platforms allow for the best reach. You know, we've had things pop up like Rumble, which is pretty terrible because not many people go there, and the algorithm just, that's why Christians are on YouTube. But we're not going to be on YouTube a whole lot longer, so sign up for the newsletter. That's even if you don't want the Philippians book, but you get the book absolutely free. preachingforgodsglory.org/gift, preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. Lessons in Philippians, completely free, a good read during this time. And I need more people on that newsletter because we don't know how long Christians are going to be on these platforms. And we know if a certain person gets in office, many Christians are going to be off here real fast because they get their orders from DC, and that's validated many places. And we've seen it with Meta, of course. That's been in the news more so than YouTube has ever been in the news. But they're big time. Google Google suppresses things. Oh yeah, let's just do that right now. We're gonna Google something, okay? Let me Google something for us. And because I did this the other day, I was like, all you have to do to find out about Springfield is just search it. And I use DuckDuckGo. I don't think it's really any better, but when things happen, whenever, I switched like my default browser to DuckDuckGo. But we'll go to Google and we'll say, okay, Google, can we find out something? Hey, Google, what do we want to search? We want to search, are they eating pets in Springfield? Are they eating pets in Springfield? Let's find out. The top stories before were just how nothing's happening. So, women behind Springfield Haitian immigrants eating pets, rumor speaks out. Okay, are Haitian migrants really eating Springfield's pet dogs and cats? And you know, the pets thing is interesting because the fact that there have been reports of them eating geese and eating animals, but they might not be anyone's pets. So they're like, well, they're not eating pets. You see, the city manager said they're not eating pets. It's a very crafty way to mislead and be like, we were giving a factual fact check. Okay, we need let's just see here how a Fringe Online claim about immigrants eating pets made its way to the debate stage. What I'm looking for is probably what you're going to see below the video pretty soon. Are Haitian migrants really eating Springfield's pet? Trump baseless. Okay, no evidence. Trump falsely. Yep. Baseless. Dismiss. Okay. Yeah. Oh, the whole thing's just totally fake, obviously. None of this stuff is happening, guys. This is all fake. Why are you even watching me? This stuff's just completely fake. Just like, did you know that there were people back in 2020 that said that thing that they said that, you know, everyone had to get, that like that thing was probably going to be mandatory? I was one of those people that said that's going to be mandatory. They're going to mandate that. And all this stuff that what a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Except what happens when you're proven true? Well, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It's just a conspiracy. That's what bothers me so much about the conspiracy theory stuff. I guess this is a little bit of a rant live stream. Hope you're fine with a little bit of that. This bugs me so much, the fact that people say things like conspiracy theory. They say it after things have already been proven. And do they not know the difference between a conspiracy theory, adjective, theory, noun? So a conspiracy theory, by definition, is a a theory modified by the adjective to say that it is a theory that is a conspiratorial theory. That's the type of theory it is. It's a type of theory. And so it is a conspiratorial theory. What does that mean? That means that two or more people, the conspiratorial theory is that two or more people are involved. So a conspiracy theory could be that two people are coming to your home tomorrow to invite you for brownies. Yes. Two people are coming to your home tomorrow to invite you for brownies. That's a conspiracy theory if I think it's going to happen, but it's not substantiated. Actually, if it hasn't happened yet, even if they told me they are, it's still technically a conspiracy theory. Think about that. They told me, we're going to go over to Sue's house. Ready, Sue? We're going to go over to Sue's house and invite her for brownies. And then we're going to go out and we're going to go to this brownie shop. Everything's about brownies. Ask my wife. I don't know why. Every illustration I come up on the spot is brownies. So you're gonna go to Sue's house, invite Sue to brownies, to a brownie shop. Yeah, because there's tons of brownie shops. And then you're gonna eat brownies because that's what you do at brownie shops. So that's the conspiracy theory. And when it happens tomorrow, it turns into a conspiracy because two women came and invited Sue, and then they went to brownies, and so there were three of them eating brownies, and that whole thing was a conspiracy. They had this secret conspiracy that they were going to go to her house, and then they were going to take her to brownies. Okay, why am I going on so long about this? Well, it's fun, number one. But number two, it's to make the point clear that conspiracy theory is different than a conspiracy. And it just means that the theory, the type of theory, is conspiratorial. So what happens once it's proven true? Once it's proven true, it's no longer conspiracy theory. It is now a conspiracy. That's a difference. There's a difference. So a conspiracy is not an adjective anymore. It's a noun. So it's moved from an adjective to a noun. I was watching an interview. I honestly couldn't stand watching stuff of Trump for quite some time. But, after the whole political persecution and, going after people, going after your political opponents like Putin, and then, assassination attempts and things like that, I've seen a whole lot more of him lately than I did in years past. And I was watching a Fox News interview and that he did, I think, after the assassination attempt. I don't remember when it was. Might have been after the conviction, actually. And he said something. He was talking, and he said, I don't want to be conspiratorial. The host responded and started saying some other things and said, I know you said, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. And I was just like, I know it's a simple slip, but I'm like, do you not understand the difference? Language matters. And it's like he clearly said, I'm not trying to be all conspiratorial right now. Meaning, we don't need to make this all conspiratorial. He was not saying I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist. Those are two different things. Not that there's anything wrong with a legitimate theory of a conspiracy that's very plausible, that may occur, that you came to a conclusion by asking questions and using critical thinking. Nothing wrong with that. But just making the point, I've talked about this many times, just not behind a camera. So now's my time. So let's get back to this. Are they eating pets in Springfield? I thought Wikipedia was going to come up, so we're just going to find the Wikipedia article. Here's what Wikipedia has to say. Pet eating hoax. I haven't gone and looked at it. I was just amazed. Like, they immediately put together an article talking about this hoax. So, are we living in a land of propaganda? 100% we're living in a land of propaganda. So as Christians, we just need to understand that. We need to understand truth. Where do you get the truth? That's a whole nother question. That's a whole nother answer. But certainly we get the ultimate truth from God's word. The ultimate truth is found in Jesus Christ. And the more that you're in God's word, you are building up a reservoir of wisdom. And that wisdom is going to help you live the godly life, yes, to live righteously. And it's going to give you, I think this is when Christians have a biblical worldview, and when Christians understand what is so wrong with false ideas, and we're constantly dealing with false ideas and going after these false ideas, well, then Christians should be the first people to see problems out there. I mean, you really should. The assassination attempt on Donald Trump was a pretty amazing thing. When I found out about it, I'm watching it and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And I don't know how much time went by, not a whole lot of time. At first it's just like, can't believe this is actually happening. And then it moves into like, wow, wonder who's behind it. And, my mind, I'm sure, is already kind of thinking of possibilities, but I didn't want to go there. But I will tell you, between reports that came out and everything, within an hour, I started asking questions, and it was an hour of asking questions, discussing it some, and then just walking through that whole thing, and less than an hour, I should say. Just like, yeah, I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious now. It's becoming more obvious by the moment. And so if someone can't figure that out, they don't have to figure it out within the 40 minutes or so that it took me, or 20, whatever. I don't know. There was video already being released, but even without the video, like, I don't need to go into it. I've done a video on that. You can watch that video if you're curious. But just sometimes people look at those that figure things out quick and they're like, you're nuts. That's just what, obviously that could never happen. That could never, ever happen. Well, like, now it's kind of like anyone that's saying that it wasn't obviously a conspiracy within the Secret Service, and we know, kind of who gave orders, that like, but at least at very minimum, the Secret Service made it, led to the incompetence, that the purposeful, intentful incompetence that allowed it to happen. I mean, it's pretty obvious, and so you start to wonder when people are like, well, I don't even know, I don't want to believe that. So I'm basing that off of something recent, but I need to wrap it up, really. So we've been going for a long time. Most of you are probably gone by now. I'm not really sure, but it is quite something. And as Christians, we need to remember, of course, God is in charge, and God is always sovereign, and we can trust in his sovereignty at all times, and we can absolutely do that. I may deal with a comment here that I saw the other day, just because I think this might be helpful. What happened to it? There it is. It might be helpful in thinking about voting, so we'll just kind of end with this. And it's from this video here on wisdom, the power of God's wisdom. And we're working our way through the book of Proverbs, and I'll link that below too if you're new here and you want to watch some Proverbs in the Truth Nuggets we're working our way through. And here was a Truth Nugget from Proverbs. I said the wrong thing. Working our way through James, and I just kind of took a pit stop, took a little trail over to Proverbs 2 to talk about wisdom. And someone left a comment on it, and it was a very nice comment. But the thinking there, I think, is I think a lot of people are thinking this way, and so I want to interact with it. And I covered the name because there are public comments. I don't want to embarrass anyone, because I don't want you to. Nobody should think negatively of this, and then so this person's going to watch it, and I want to interact with him on this. He left a nice comment, so I don't have my response here, do I? But I said that was very good, and that is how I try to live my life, by wisdom and understanding. And that's excellent. I was talking about wisdom being for godly living. is that as a Christian, I just can't understand how so many Christians can vote and back a man like Trump or a lady like Harris. They both and their Christian supporters obviously don't apply what you just spoke and read out of Proverbs. So how can I, as a Christian, living my life by those standards, why should I give my vote to either of those candidates? Trump says he is a Christian, but his fruit doesn't prove that, and he obviously is not applying what you just spoke and read. Harris, I have no idea what she actually believes in. They both prove they are people of the world, and God tells us not to live that way. I feel that I just can't vote for either one of them. I guess where the ballot says other, I will vote for Jesus. And I just want to say I appreciate the sentiment, and I agree with much of it. And that was actually my response, because I couldn't tell how the video had anything to do with voting or with Trump, and even how Proverbs 2, you can make application from there. But I listened to my video a few times, and I read that, and I'm like, how do we get there? We get there because that's what's on people's minds. This is what's on people's minds, voting, and Christians that are supporting candidates, and how can they support those candidates? And again, supporting or endorsing is different than voting. That's how I take it. I simply left a response, and I'm not going to go, deep into this in the comment section, and especially not on a truth nugget, because truth nuggets are kind of, unless I get political in the truth nugget, they're usually kind of more safer ground. I wasn't really talking about that. So anyway, I said something to the effect of like, thank you. I really appreciate that comment. I appreciate that encouragement. I agree with much of what you said, although I come to a different conclusion. That's what I said. I come to a different conclusion. I just kind of left it there, and I said, praise God for his wisdom. Because we can praise God for his wisdom, absolutely. I just don't see how using wisdom for godly living would lead someone necessarily to just say, well, I can't vote at all. But see, that's what I've been saying for a long time. I really think it's all going to come down to how one views voting. And so for you, sir, watching this, if you're watching this at some point, I think that's kind of how I walk through it. As I walk through it, that, voting for someone is different than endorsing them. And I think what makes this so challenging is the fact that people go around and they're endorsing Trump, and they're treating him as their savior. And it's very problematic. And anytime you do get invested a little bit into the politics, then people are like, well, you're talking about this person too much. And, if you can't stand just hearing about the person, well, people are going to talk about politicians. That's the reality. But, Trump is obviously not a Christian. Need to say that here so you can hear it here. Clearly, he said he's got, I did a video where I walked through a lot of things, and I played the video clip to where he asked for forgiveness. He was asked if he had ever asked God for forgiveness, and he said no. And Trump's very good at reading the room. I pay attention to this just in terms of public speaking. Like, you could tell when the guy asked the question back to him again, because Trump just tried to divert off to a distraction, and he came back and he pressed and he said, but have you ever asked God for forgiveness? And if you watch, Trump paused. He took a scan at the audience, evangelical audience, and that scan made it very, very clear to him, this is an important question. This is the question. And so he knew that in that moment, he could lie. He could simply just lie and tell them what they want to hear. And he said, I try to live a life where I don't have to ask him for forgiveness. And the response was not great. And he said, I could just say yes. But I try to live a life to where I don't have to ask him for forgiveness. That's conviction. that's conviction that he does not need to ask God for forgiveness. And so we should pray that he could come to a true knowledge and saving faith of Jesus Christ, that it is not a walk of good versus bad, being good and you'll go to heaven and bad and you'll go to hell, but it is simply through the righteousness of Christ and trusting in Christ and his perfect righteousness that one can be saved, that one can be born again and be with the Lord. And that is the message that he needs to hear from someone around him. Someone needs to be willing. Come on, Franklin Graham. Someone needs to preach that message to him, and he needs to repent and come to the Lord. But no, Donald Trump is not a Christian, but God does work through different people, and it is possible to work through people to push against lawlessness and maybe see some improvement in the country. Not really saying that's going to happen necessarily, but let's at least love our neighbor by voting for the best candidate that there is out there. That's the final thought for today. We'll end it with that. Thanks for joining me for today's Truth Transforms Live. Take a glance at the comments here just to see what we might have before I close it out in full. And I see some agreements about not endorsing a candidate. Absolutely. Thank you guys for your encouraging comments. I really do appreciate it. I'll read through these in more detail later. I just think that's something that we really should keep in mind. And I do hope that you'll join my newsletter. And I'd like to get you some more free content. I'd really like to do that. I'm really the YouTube algorithm really sucks the joy out of things because certain things reach a lot of people and other things don't. And so it's really, really important. I want you to hear that part, that if you support what I'm doing here, if you support what Truth Transforms stands for, which is transforming minds and transforming hearts through the truth of God's word. And if you'd like to have some free content and show your support and maybe get some exclusive content that's not going to be available on this platform, then I'd like you to join that newsletter. I'd go to preachingforgodsglory.org. You can go to the main page and sign up there, or just go to the /gift, preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. You'll get a free gift in Philippians, but there'll also be a way to reach you directly if I need to, and I have no intention of overdoing it on emails. And if you think I can't, you can unsubscribe just as easy as you can unsubscribe to a newspaper, sure, and to a YouTube channel. And anyway, I highly encourage you to do that. So closing in on 20,000 YouTube subscribers, and that's a great feeling, and getting close to 200 email subscribers. So help me build the email. All right. God bless you. Thanks for joining, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to let you know real quick, if you ever feel led to support, these are some ways that can be done. You can, of course, do that by providing a one-time love offering. There's a link below that shows you how you can do that. Also, you can visit the merchandise shop and find something that you enjoy, and that would help out as well. And you would also have some merch that you'll definitely like. There's hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all kinds of merch in there. And you can take a look at the Devotional Bible Study Guide. There's a link to a video. You can find out more about that. Also, if you do decide to visit the merchandise shop, what you're going to find is all kinds of different designs. There you see a few examples. Sermon Fuel, Don't Get Mad at Me, I Just Preach the Bible. My dad's my favorite pastor. My husband's my favorite preacher. And I'm going to tell you, by far the most popular is my husband is my favorite preacher, and Don't Get Mad at Me, I Just Preach the Bible. This Preach the Word's pretty popular as well. Then here's again, my husband's my favorite preacher in pink. And you can take a look at the designs. There's a lot more to look at, so be sure to visit the store and check out those other links below. God bless you, and thanks for watching.